All right, let's talk about a rule that got introduced at the World Cup, killed one of the Premier League's favorite tactics on the biggest stage in football, and then the Premier League turned around and quietly refused to bring it home. If you've watched Arsenal or Chelsea take a corner over the last 2 seasons, you've seen this move 100 times without knowing it had a name. It's called the meat wall. Here's what it actually is. Attackers pack themselves into the 6-yard box, the small box right in front of the goal, and use their bodies to pin defenders in place and block the goalkeeper's path to the ball. So when the corner comes in, the keeper physically can't get to it because there are bodies in his way, and one of your attackers wins a free header that, honestly, half the time wasn't even that well hit. It didn't need to be. The scheme did the work before the ball arrived.
Nicholas Jover built his entire reputation at Arsenal on exactly this. Under him, Arsenal weren't just good from corners, they were relentless, turning what used to be a coin flip restart into one of the most reliable ways to score in the entire league. And it wasn't just Arsenal.
Crystal Palace and Aston Villa built similar reputations, hiring dedicated set-piece coaches specifically to weaponize exactly this kind of chaos. Because if a team can't create it in open play, a well-drilled corner routine becomes the cheapest goal on the board. That's why it spread. It worked because referees basically ignored what happened before the ball was kicked. A shove here, a body check there. Nobody called it live, and there was no video layer to catch it afterward. If the whistle didn't go in the moment, the contact simply never existed as far as the record was concerned. Then, the 2026 World Cup happened. FIFA's refereeing chief, Pierluigi Collina, had been pushing for years to close that exact gap, arguing it would be a disgrace for a World Cup match to be decided by a foul nobody was allowed to review. IFAB agreed, and for this tournament, VAR got the power to go back and review contact before a corner is even taken.
Holding, blocking, shoving a defender out of position, if it happens in that crowd before the ball comes in, it's now reviewable. And if the officials find a clear offense, the referee gets sent to the monitor and can order the set piece retaken. For the first time in the sport's history, a foul that happened before the whistle wasn't invisible anymore. It had a paper trail. And you could see it in how teams adjusted mid-tournament. Sides stopped trusting the old crowd the box approach and started looking for cleaner ways to win the same header, because getting caught now actually cost you the set piece entirely. So, naturally, you'd expect the Premier League to follow suit. They didn't. In June 2026, at their annual general meeting, Premier League clubs voted on a full package of football principles for the new season, and they explicitly rejected the option to bring in that exact VAR on corners rule. Not an oversight. A vote. PGMOL themselves advised against adopting it, warning that reviewing every disputed corner would meaningfully increase match length and pile even more pressure onto referees already stretched thin by VAR delays. And in the league's own stakeholder survey, the one they run every year with club owners, managers, players, and fans, fewer than 4 in 10 respondents even wanted VAR reviewing corners in the first place. So here's the split. And it's not subtle. The exact same tactic, the exact same loophole, got shut down with video evidence at the World Cup. And a few weeks later, the Premier League looked at the same evidence and chose to police it without any of that technology at all.
Now, to be fair to the Premier League, they didn't ignore the problem completely. Their new guidance does tell referees to watch for defenders holding attackers in the box with no intention of playing the ball, and it separately tells them to punish attackers who are clearly obstructing the goalkeeper rather than genuinely competing for it. On paper, that covers the meat wall from both sides.
But here's the catch, and it's really the whole story. They're asking referees to catch all of this live at
full speed with the ball already in flight, while simultaneously instructing those same referees to keep a high threshold before blowing the whistle at all. The same high threshold approach that had 83% support in last year's survey, specifically because fans and coaches didn't want stoppages for marginal contact. That's the exact opposite of what made the World Cup version actually work. VAR could freeze the moment and go back and look from 3 different angles before deciding anything. A referee standing on the goal line, watching 6 bodies crash into each other in half a second, cannot do that. He gets one look, live speed, and he's been told explicitly not to be trigger happy about what he sees. That's not the Premier League secretly protecting Arsenal. It's just a much harder job than the one VAR was built for, and it means the meat wall doesn't need anyone to protect it. It just needs the referee to miss one contact in a crowd, which is exactly the kind of thing that used to slip through before VAR ever existed in the first place, and is now, by design, allowed to slip through again. Which brings us to the team that's already built around this gap, before a ball's even been kicked in anger this season. Brighton manager Fabian Hurzeler reportedly brought in an actual MMA fighter to train his players on handling the physical battle inside the box, which tells you everything about how seriously clubs are taking this. Nobody hires a fighter to prepare for a tactic that's actually been banned. You hire a fighter to prepare for a tactic you expect to survive in exactly the form it existed in last season. And here's the frustrating part for anyone hoping the Premier League might eventually catch up. There's already a clean blueprint sitting right there for how to win the same header without any of this risk. At the World Cup, once the meat wall got dangerous to run, some teams stopped crowding the 6-yard box entirely and started delivering out-swinging corners further out, 10 to 12 yards from goal, using legal picks instead of illegal holds to free up a run at the ball. No contact, no foul, nothing for VAR or a referee to ever flag, live or on replay. It's proof the tactic can be replaced with something just as effective and completely risk-free. But why would Jover, or Palace, or Villa switch to that harder, more technical version domestically when the Premier League has effectively told them the easier, more physical version is still fine, as long as it doesn't happen right in front of the referee's face? So here's the verdict. This isn't a story about the Premier League ignoring player safety, and it isn't some secret conspiracy to protect Arsenal specifically. It's simpler and more interesting than that. FIFA and IFAB proved on the biggest stage in the sport that this tactic is genuinely stoppable, but only with technology backing up the referee's eyes. The Premier League looked at that exact solution this summer, weighed it against match length, referee workload, and what their own stakeholders actually wanted, and said no thanks. We'll stick with the human eye alone. And if you know anything about how a 2-second corner scramble actually looks live, with 6 players crashing together and a referee 20 yards away trying to judge intent in real time, you already know which version of this fight usually wins. IFAB ended the meat wall with a video review. The Premier League just handed it right back with a set of guidelines and a referee's best judgment under pressure not to blow the whistle too easily. And that is a fight the tactic is going to win far more often than it loses.